Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Where is my little clicker? There we go. October 18th, people competition. This will be a projection competition. Got to turn your clicker on. There we go. Oh, come on. Don't misbehave. There we go. October 25th, Special Agent Justin Soroka will be here. Principles of Forensic and Crime Scene Photography. This is a unique opportunity to see a different application of photography, a rare opportunity. But because of Justin's work, we're not going to be recording this. We're not going to be projecting this. So if you want to see the speaker, you want to see Justin, they're going to have to show up at the clubhouse. October 18th, people competition. Oops, going backwards. November 1st, black and white competition, projection. November 8th, bee competition, projection. November 7th, we're going to have a SIG meeting. Dave Bush is going to talk about architecture photography. Mat cutting, classes the 15th, November 5th and 19th, December 3rd and 17th. It's a good opportunity to learn a new skill. You can create your own mats, custom mats. For a single mat, it's $3. For a double mat, it's $5. You can't beat that price. Once you've taken the class with Dennis, then you can come anytime that the clubhouse is open and cut your own mats. The darkroom door, spring 2024, has come out and it is now on the website. Be kind. It was the only picture I had of myself, so, and when you read the president's report, keep in mind that I was writing it at 5:30 in the morning. I tend to ramble. Tonight's CPS history lesson with Dave. The darkroom door used to be through the darkroom door. This is what the 1943 front cover of the darkroom door looked like. And I'm going to read a couple of pages out of the 1943 darkroom door. This is the June 1943 darkroom door. The straw man again. In issue 17 of The Complete Photographer, William Mortensen indulges in that favorite trick of debaters, setting up a straw man and then proceeding to demolish it. He opposes purists to pictorialists and states that between them, control has become a fighting word. In our opinion, that is ridiculous. The article goes on and talks about the debate between purists and pictorialists. In 1943, they were arguing about the same thing, and today we're still arguing about the same thing. So have we learned anything? It doesn't seem like it. Come on, guys, get over it. There's got to be room for the pictorialists, and there's got to be room for the purists. At least that's my opinion, for what it's worth. There is another little section in here that I thought I would read. August 15th, 1943. At the kind invitation of the Women's Photographic Society, several of our members attended a tea and garden party held in the gardens of the Western Reserve Historical Society. The museum is housed in homes formerly belonging to the Hannah and Price McKinley families. Throughout the buildings and their surrounding gardens, many opportunities for pictures presented themselves to the observing eye. Interesting interiors, doorways, and garden scenes were pictured by the camera enthusiasts, and we shall no doubt see many of these pictures coming up on future nights. The ladies of the WPS, as always, were gracious hostesses and left nothing undone to make the occasion pleasant for everyone. Kind of a sexist photo club back in the 1943. I forget what year it was that women were actually allowed to enter the club. And that's my little history lesson. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Eric Wethington. And I forget the title of his.
Bodies, lenses, and flashes, oh my.
Take it away, Eric.
All right, well, most of you know I'm Eric Wethington. I'm from Dodd. I've been working for Dodd Camera now for about approaching 31 years. And I have seen the birth of stuff, and I've seen the death of stuff, and tell you, this stuff is changing even faster than it was back then. I was going to bring a special guest. Unfortunately, he had to bail on me last minute. I was going to bring Isaac, who's our new rental manager. He's going to tell you about the rental stuff. However, I will tell you about the rental stuff. We do rent a large selection of Canon, Nikon, Sony lenses and bodies, studio lights, stands, grips, tripods, microphones, video stuff. So if you are looking for something that maybe you can't afford, or you want to try for a weekend, feel free to stop on in. We do have there's a deposit for the value for like 25% of the value of the equipment. So if you want to rent a $1,000 lens, a temporary hold of like $250 on your credit card, and that, basically you can walk out with the gear. The best way to rent though would be using the weekend rate, which is Friday afternoon to Monday morning. It's considered one rental day. And most lenses rent from 25 to 50 bucks. So basically, for 25 bucks, you could play with a Tamron 150 to 600 or, one of the lenses that I've brought here. Most of this stuff is supplied by the rental department, and a few other pieces I just happened to grab that maybe they don't know I grabbed. So if you have any questions about Dodd, locations and stuff like that, I'll be more than happy to answer them after this. I do have my card here. I also have some rental vouchers for $25 off of a rental item. So if you like to rent Tamron lenses, you might actually get a free rental out of the deal. The expiration date has expired, but we are honoring them to the end of the year. So ignore the expiration date. And with that, I brought at least a body and a lens from about everybody. And like I said, these things change so fast. I am not an expert on everything. So if you got a question and I don't know, I'll look it up real quick. But I did bring the flagship Nikon, the Z9, which is a 42 meg full frame Z mount. A lot of people actually like the Z8. It's a little brother, a little better because it's a little smaller. But if you're doing event shooting, the nice thing is I got a humongo battery. And mirrorless cameras in general are power hungry. So the normal EN-EL15 battery from Nikon on a Z8 or Z7 type bodies, give or take 500-600 photos. This guy's going to double that for you. But it does have a bigger frame. The nice thing about this one, if you do professional sports, this actually does have not just the Wi-Fi, it actually has a LAN socket, which means I can plug in, go straight to a high-speed network, and I'm going bang, 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 and the images are dropping to whatever network, and your partners with your computers can be grabbing these images. When it comes to sports, the first person to get that photo up, I don't care if it's the best one, the first person gets paid. So that's the nice thing about this. I brought the standard 24 to 70 f4 lens. I couldn't get the other one because it was going out on rental. I was hoping for the 2.8, but I grabbed this one instead. After I'm done talking, if you guys want to come up and play with them while we're waiting, I think there'll be a few minutes, but I don't think there's a lot of photos, so this might be kind of a quick night. I brought Fuji's X-T50, which is kind of more of a baseline mid-level body, mirrorless also. The nice thing about Fuji systems is that, one, they make their own sensors, which so does Sony, so does Panasonic, so does Canon. But Fuji makes film. Nobody else who makes sensors makes film. So Fuji cameras have film simulation mode. So if you're an old film guy like me and have shot Ostia, Provia, Acros, Reala, guess what? This has those film simulations, so you know those colors. Everybody else has bright and landscape and portrait modes for your color scheme. This actually imitates Fuji color scheme. And they have a compact one called the X100, both a Mark V and Mark VI, which due to TikTokers have become extremely popular. And if you want to order one, it is a 10-month to 1-year wait. The last information I had was back in March, and there is a Fuji factory dedicated to that camera, and they made, in March, 15,000 units. The United States got 150 of them. Dodd Camera got 6. So that's how high the demand is, and you just can't get them. There are alternate cameras to that one if you like those high-end rangefinder point shoots. Ricoh's GR3, which typically we can get. Leica's Deluxe 8. We don't immediately stock, but we do order 3 to 4 weeks, and you can get that one. And a Canon G7 Mark III, and those also a 6 to 8 month wait. So if you like a high-end point and shoot, I would not look towards the Fuji or the Canon because they're extremely hard to get a hold of. But the other two are a little easier. I brought the Canon R5 Mark II. I unfortunately I could not get a hold of an R3. And the R1s have just been announced, and I have physically seen an R1 flagship, but we have not received any yet to show. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks, we'll see those R1s if you really want flagship Canon. But that's not the key piece for Canon. The key piece is they let me take this. This is probably the most expensive piece of equipment, and I've got a digital Hasselblad. This is more expensive than the digital Hasselblad. This is Canon's 100 to 300 2.8, about $9,500 right here. But if you're doing sports, you're doing wildlife, you're doing birds, and you got the money to spare, not me, this is a good one to use. And it's actually, for its size, it's not bad on the weight. As you can see, you know, I'm not going like 2 hands and stuff like that, but I would probably still be using a monopod because after 2 or 3 hours, your shoulders are probably going to get a little tired. Just beware, really big filter size, 112 millimeters. That's going to be an expensive filter for those people that use filters. If you don't use filters, use your hood. That becomes your bump protection. I brought Sony's flagship, the A1, which has been out for maybe a year and a half, 2 years now, maybe a hair more, but figured I'd grab something high-end from them. You know, you can come and see the A7s all you want, but not a lot of people know the A1. This is their flagship. I did bring a brand new Sigma lens that I have attached to it. This is their 24 to 85 1.8. This is now the fastest full-frame zoom lens on the market. There's been other 1.8 lenses by Sigma. There's a 15 to 30 and 50 to 100, but those are for crop sensors. This is now the fastest zoom lens currently on the market. Recently came in like maybe 2 weeks ago. Haven't heard anything good or bad on it yet. So if you want to play with it, feel free to play with it. It is in our rental department if you wanted to try it. Sigma's counterpart, Tamron. This is also for Sony. This is their 35 to 150 2.0 to 2.8. This was the fastest zoom until that one came out. The nice thing about this guy, well, the bad thing is she's kind of tall, is it stays at 2.0 to almost 85 millimeter in the focal length. So you stay fast, you know, up until, you stay super fast throughout, you know, half the lens. where a lot of the other ones that are like 2.8 to 4, once you get out of your widest point, boom, it jumps to 3.5. You know, like who's got it? There's a 2.8 to 4. I think there's I'm trying to blank on who makes it, but once you get like past 28, that 2.8's gone. It goes to 3.5. So it's like, well, what's the point at 2.8 if you only shoot it at kind of one focal length? So this stays 2.0 throughout the first half, lower half of it, and it goes to 2.8. I brought 2 flashes with me, the only 2 flashes I brought. The Profoto A10, which is and the FJ80 SE. Both of these are round-headed flashes. So if you were to do off camera, it gives it a look more like a studio light rather than the square light of maybe a traditional flash. Profoto is pretty much the kingpin when it comes to this. Extremely consistent color accuracy. So from a shot-to-shot basis, your drift is no more than 80 Kelvin. Human eye cannot discern anything more or less than 200 Kelvin, so it stays right, you know, you won't even see a difference from shot 1 to shot 500. The lithium polymer battery on this one is good for 550 to 600 full blast flashes with a recycle rate of half a second to 1.5 seconds, so it never slows down like AA's. You know, you go AA's, after 100 shots, it suddenly takes 3 to 5 to 8 seconds. This stays fast. And Petapixel did a comparison of a lot of the round-headed flashes. This is the most expensive one, so they knocked it on that, and they knocked it on one other minor detail, but this guy came out on top. The FJ80 Mark II, this is the SE special edition version. Mark II is a little bit more, this guy's a little bit less. Difference between Mark II and this one, lithium ion battery versus lithium polymer battery. The lithium polymer battery recycles a little quicker and maybe for another 50 to 100 shots. So 550 to 600 full blast versus maybe 500 to 550. The difference between the Westcott and the Profoto and Godox makes a round-headed flash. This is multi-brand dedicated. With a simple flip of a switch, I can go Nikon, I can go Canon, I can go Fuji, I can go Panasonic. I don't need to buy a specific flash for each of my brands. Most people here, I'm assuming you're going to have only one brand of camera, but if you're out shooting with a friend or you're teaching a class and someone's, you know, you've got a Nikon and someone's got a Canon, all you got to do is go, boop, there you go. You know, boop, there you go. The Mark II is also a touchscreen versus more buttons on the back. Magnetic mount modifiers. Profoto started it. They've got a patent on it. They pretty much put a cease and desist for magnetic modifiers or how the design was for Westcott, Neewer, and Godox. So everybody changed their magnetic mount a little bit except for Godox. So right now Profoto is suing Godox. A little bit of photographic politics going on. The 2 point and shoots, well, actually about 3 points. Let me give one more here. Another flagship, but not as expensive as the rest of them, the Olympus OM1. This is a micro 4/3 mirrorless camera, so the sensor size is relatively about half what a full frame sensor is, but as you can tell, my body's a lot smaller. But what you can do with this thing, you can't do with some of those other ones. Obviously, because I'm smaller, I can carry it around a lot longer. The focal lengths are basically doubled. So this 12 to 100 is a 24 to 200 f4 continuous. Try to get that on a Nikon lens, you're going to be like this big. Okay. This has a built-in graduated neutral density filter. I've not played with it. It also has at least a 6-stop, might be a 7-stop full neutral density filter. So you don't have to use filters in front of your lenses. It can do it built in. And then the in-body stabilization is at least 2 stops better than anybody else's in-body stabilization. at I think 8.5 stops. So you can handhold like a quarter of a second with a tele lens and it's fine. So that's really cool. The last thing that these things have, that this guy has, is a live composite mode. So a lot of these guys off the back, if you set your exposure, you can see go light and dark, and you can see what your results are. This one, if you set it for live composite mode, as you are exposing a long exposure shot, you will see it develop on the back screen, and you stop it when you like it. So you don't have to say, what's 3 seconds looks like? What's 5 seconds looks like? With the Northern Lights, it was out last night. Guess what? Anywhere between 3 and 10 seconds. Guess what? You could just sit here and say, go. Oh, that looks good. Stop. Okay. You don't have to sit there and change it and guess and change it and guess. Of course, things are changing all the time. I brought 2 little point shoots. There's not many point shoots on the market anymore. Actually, I did bring a third. But the 2 categories that are predominantly there are the rugged ones. So these can be dropped underwater, snorkeling, sat on. These are basically the abuse-proof cameras. So good for the hands of kids. Olympus has them called the TG. They're just one. It comes in black and red. Ricoh / Ricoh Pentax has about 4 or 5 different ones. Price points from $200 to about $500. But if you're an adventure type photographer and you don't want to take your SLR, but you're going to go hiking, camping, whitewater rafting, instead of taking a disposable film camera, you could take some of these. My second most expensive piece of equipment, as it stands probably the most expensive piece of equipment, is the Hasselblad 907 digital medium format. It's a specific reason why I brought this, is that this back comes off, boom, and that looks like a film back. Guess what? I got a film body. If I can get the back off, and I can put the digital back on the film body, except for my finder's in the way. And basically, this becomes a 100 megapixel digital camera. Now, because the shutter curtain's in the way, I can't use the back screen like I can like that. I still have to use the finder on this. But it'll immediately show the photo afterwards. So if any of you still have Hasselblad stuff still floating around. So I once upon a time would have said only from the mines of Minolta. However, I'm not a fan of this guy. But I brought it anyway to kind of give you a little bit of a history lesson. Minolta's camera division was bought by Sony a good 20 years ago, if not 25 years ago. And that's how Sony got into the SLR market. They bought their way in. Some Chinese company bought their name and started coming up with point-and-shoot cameras. Their first volley about 3-4 years ago, there was one that was kind of had a decently high failure rate, so kind of left a little bit of a sour taste in my mouth. We just got a new set of them in. Hopefully they're better, but I have no opinion. We just got them in the other day. But if you're looking for a point and shoot and you want to try one of theirs, they do have some. Last camera I brought is the Pentax 17. This is mine. I'll talk about that in a second. The Pentax 17 is the very first film camera that has been introduced in over 15 years. This is a film camera. Yes, I have a roll of film in it right now. I will pass it around. Please don't open the back. I have a roll of Fuji Acros in it right now. This is a half-frame film camera. So a roll of 24 is 48 shots, and a roll of 36 is 72. I shot my first roll of film in it, turned it in on Wednesday. I was going to try to make a print off of it, but dummy me forgot to take it home and scan it. The roll's still sitting at Dodge. But I will say a roll of 36 giving you 72 photos is a lot of photos. I turned in a partial roll with about 55 shots taken. But it is a half frame, and it is not framed horizontal like most 35 millimeter. It is actually framed vertical, okay, which is kind of like how you would shoot with your cell phone. So it's kind of that vertical format. So when you take a look at the negatives, they're going like this, not like this. Manual wind, rewind, anything you would feel about a traditional classic SLR type camera or rangefinder from back in the days. It is also a zone focusing camera. So it's not an autofocus. You've got to kind of dial it in, and there's click stops in your focus points. And I just brought a couple different films. The last camera is my personal camera, is the Pentax K1. It is one of their full frame cameras. They do have a Mark II out now. Kind of like a 5D Mark IV, Nikon D850 class. The biggest thing where everybody's system is good at something and maybe not so good at something else, Canon's always good at video, Nikon's always about their optics, Fuji's always about their color. The Pentax is all about how rugged they are. So she's got some beef to her. But the screen comes out, kind of does some weird twisty stuff to it that nobody else has. I'm going to grab my frame. If I did this to any other camera, I would probably tear it off. Now, it's not the fastest motor drive. It only does like 5 frames per second. And 1080 video, not 4K video. But if you are rough on your gear like I can be, that's where these guys shine. And I assume, because I know there was very little photos, I assume they're kind of going to be ready. So if you have questions, feel free to ask. Or if you want to come up and play for a few minutes, feel free. Grab my card, grab one of the rental vouchers. That's it.
Thank you.
Well, good evening, everybody. I'm Marge, and I'm the chairperson of the bee competitions. For those of you who are new to competing, the judges tonight are scoring in 3 different areas: composition, technique, and impact. And they can score a total of 3 points for each of those areas for a perfect score of 9. And I am going to let the judges introduce themselves, and unfortunately, we don't have many entries tonight, so we're not going to be here very long, but we have not a lot of quantity, but we have quality. You want to start?
I'd be delighted. Hi, I'm Dan Sandy. I've been a member at the club since probably 2011, 2012, something like that. I was on the board for a good portion of that time, and I'm also the creative competition chair. During my time at CPS, I've had the pleasure of having several images on the back wall for photos of the year in every category so far. I really enjoy it. I don't do anything professionally photography-wise, which is why I still enjoy doing it.
Hi, I'm Nancy Ballack. I teach the fundamentals class. I teach environmental portraiture, and I am also the photographer for Hale Farm. And I used to be on the board. I used to be sometimes chairpersons of some of the competitions. I no longer compete, and I just enjoy doing some of the judging here and teaching.
Hi, I'm Coleman Rosenberg. Been in the club for, I was going to say, longer than some of you have been alive, but maybe not tonight.
Oh, what do you say?
You know, truth hurts sometimes. I teach in the fundamental school a couple of the classes, Exposure and Exposure 2 and Sports in Action, on the board. And I'm no longer competing either, but enjoy judging occasionally. I also do some volunteer shooting for Ohio Contemporary Ballet, which used to be known as Verb Ballet, and I do that for the challenge. It's always a challenge, and I get some beautiful shots out of it, so I keep doing it. Looking forward to judging tonight. Already did, actually.
Yeah, you get the critiquing one. Sure.
This image has phenomenal focus. From the very tip of its tongue to the tail, I mean, it's really just tack sharp. Compositionally, I think it's really well done as well. The monitor or lizard of some sort isn't touching any of the edges, which is real nice. Be mindful of things on the edge of the images. I was a little distracted by what might be a building corner or a tree in the top right corner. It's just such a strong, solid thing, and it just kind of competes with the subject matter. The other thing to think about is I did find this image a little dark in the foreground. So if you maybe just did a little burning on the top, so you would kind of lighten or darken the hot spots, and then if you lightened up a little of the shadows, I think you'd have overall a little more cohesive image. But all in all, I think it's a really solid image. You definitely have the stuff to work with. I just think it needs a little more tweaking, just to, like I said, improve the lighting a little bit.
Okay, the title is Dragon Tales by Laura Krosky, 24 points, second place.
This is such a dreamy photograph. The horizon just blends right into the sky, and you've got your person down in the lower 1/3 of the photograph, which is really good. It stands out nicely, and it looks like your horizon line is pretty level. That's one thing you always want to look out for, to make sure the horizon line is level and it doesn't tilt one way or the other. It looks like this was a long exposure too. Is that me making all that noise?
It sure is.
Yeah, okay. You had a long exposure on that, which made the water even silkier. And like I said, it blends beautifully with the sky, and your composition is really nice too.
Well, while we wait for the score to be read, one other thing I would say about this is if you haven't used any filters on your actual lens while you're taking the image, this would be a great example of something that would work really well with a graduated filter, something like a Koken, where you would be able to darken just the sky itself and leave the foreground kind of as is. And in doing that, you'll get a lot more of those details, and you won't lose any of the details in the brighter spots because, well, they just won't be nearly as bright. Something to think about.
The title is Lady by the Lake by George Klepitz, 21 points.
See that there's 7. I'm gonna see that there's only 7.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's a very nice black and white image, portrait. The lighting's very moody, definitely sets a tone. Highlights on one side. There's a very nice sort of rim light on the right side of her face that I like because it differentiates her head from the background. I'd like to see more of the tattoo on her shoulder. That was, I think, the only thing I thought if that were lightened up just a little bit. You know, it's there enough to know it's there. So I think I'd like to see more of what it's all about.
I give the photographer credit for selecting, this is gonna sound awful, like a woman with some age on her, I guess. You don't usually see that. They're always like, really young, attractive, and this was great. I thought this was wonderful that you portrayed her so beautifully. I think nice job.
If I may also add to this, seeing that we have so few images, one thing that I think would, and this is all just personal opinion, I'm not generally a portrait photographer, so you can just totally ignore me if you wish. That is fine. One thing I would offer as a suggestion maybe is maybe just either having the model turn her head a little bit more to the left, or maybe just bringing the light a little bit more around so that you catch a little bit, you kind of get that Rembrandt lighting on the eye, on the other eye, like underneath it, so you kind of get that little triangle. Is that Rembrandt lighting? Thank you. That way you kind of get a little bit more. Once again, this is just a personal opinion. All in all, I think it's a really well done image, regardless.
And also, when you do portraits, you need to get the eyes into focus, and that one eye is just perfectly in focus, with the one in the light. You did a nice job.
The title is Unguarded by George Klepitz, 20 points.
Well, I think I'm the perfect person for this one. Love cats. This is just a phenomenal image. Once again, tack sharp, front to back. Really, there isn't much to say about it. I was a little distracted by the little bar across the bottom, but there's really not much you could do about that, given that you were at the zoo. Well, at least I assume so. Yeah, all in all, I think it's really well done. Possibly lighten up the eyes just a little bit. I mean, once again, it's tack sharp. I think just seeing a little bit more of that color in the eyes would improve it a little bit, and maybe darken a little bit of the rest of the cat. But all in all, that's just being picky. I just really think it's well done.
I'd add that I was looking for sharpness, and the sharpness is there. But yet it looked a little flat to me, and I finally realized I think maybe a glossier paper would have made it stand out a little, look a little sharper, a little more contrasty than it looks on this sort of matte type, not matte, but a less glossy paper.
The title is Riker by Laura Krosky, 22 points.
This is a beautiful young woman. Excuse me. The one thing I noticed that it wasn't really tack sharp. It's a little on the soft side. But your lighting looks pretty nice. She's looking like she's having a really good time. Her hair looks good. Let's see. I'm not sure I like her arm like that. Hang on, just give me a second here. But like I said, when I looked, the first thing I noticed about this, it wasn't tack sharp. Her eyes were kind of in the dark too. You really want to make sure the eyes that are really sharp and they stand out. I think the lighting on her face is okay. Do either of you have anything else, David?
Well, I always have something to add.
go ahead.
I mean, come on. Are you kidding? Yeah, and I would actually mirror what Nancy was saying about the elbow. And I think the issue that kind of comes from it is the fact that it's merging with the edge of the frame. Had you had that same kind of orientation of the model, I think if you zoomed out just a little bit, gave her a little bit more room, I think it would work a little more effectively. Because then you could use that kind of vertical of the arm as almost a leading line to the corner of the shot. So giving a little bit more room to just the overall shot, just by pulling it back a little bit, I think you can get a little bit more of a flow to it. And once again, I will also agree with Nancy in the fact that the one eye is a little bit dark. I do love that you have the catch light in the one eye, but generally you try to get them in both eyes so that way it's a little more symmetrical, but you know, still well done.
The title is Laughter Between Shots, George Klepitz, 22 points.
Happy I got this shot. This just made my eyes pop. It's beautifully composed with the three birds, the two what are they? Pelicans? Yeah.
No,
Flamingos, that's it. Flamingos, and then there's
yeah.
kingfisher or a heron up on the top corner, and they make a nice diagonal through the image. They're lit beautifully. The tree that they're sitting on, or one of them sitting on, has some beautiful tones, and then the background is nicely muted. Just a beautiful image.
Yeah, the photographer is very lucky that they're in this kind of a position here too. I mean, you usually see them all hunched together and all that. This is just a stunning photo. Just beautiful.
The title is Flamingos +1 by Ray Krasinski, 26 points, first place.
This is a really powerful image. I believe this is the church right on the square, the public square. And that's just a statue of a homeless person, I believe. I love the textures in this. It's super sharp, great exposure. I mean, it's a really well done image. If I were to give any comment, I would just say just give a little bit more room to the top of the arch, but that's just being nitpicky. All in all, like I said, the textures, the flow, it all works really well. I mean, maybe consider trying black and white just for fun, but I don't know if it's really going to add much. I mean, all in all, it's a good shot.
And it's beautifully symmetrical too. And then with just that statue down in the lower right-hand corner, it just sets it off. It's really nice.
The title is Old Stone Church by Ray Krasinski, 24 points, second place. And that concludes our competition. Thought maybe the judges could argue a little more among themselves to kind of.
Dan was precedent here. He was getting really close.
I tried arguing,
I
but,
know.
you know, maybe next time.
Okay.
Yeah, and just remember, this is only the opinions of other people. Art is subjective. If you love it, keep on doing it. Don't care what other people say.
These photos were amazing, actually, for a bee competition.
Well, you